Should we do a call and response? What time is it?
Big time.
Big time.
Yeah, we'll work on it. Wow, I'm so excited. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Bake Time, our new series dedicated to all things baking. It's gonna be kind of like my video diary, as it were. It's really exciting to be able to explore all different types of recipes and really go on this journey with you. The people who dream of the bake every week, but also, you know, the baking curious, those who, you know, might not love baking, but maybe like lied on their Hinge profile and said that they know how to make a mean key lime pie. It's for everyone. So for my first big assignment, I put together this collection of about 20 fall recipes that really kind of like reimagine fall baking. I wanted this one recipe that was gonna be kind of like the centerfold, you know? I wanted this recipe that was gonna be like the hottest girl at the party. And I think that that is really where I've landed with this Boozy apple crunch cake. When I started thinking about it, I was like, okay, I don't love apple pie, but I really like apple cake. There's this German apple cake called Apfelkuchen, which is like, yeah, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but I assume. It's like this really tender apple cake with layered, thinly sliced apples. And so I was like, okay, cool. Kind of want to like take that and run with it. I made a version that was with almond paste, and it was just like a little too almondy. And then I made a version that was like completely gluten-free. It was just kind of a mess. It was still tasty, but I was like, okay, this is like in my heart of hearts, I know that this is not what I want this cake to be. So then I kind of went back to the drawing board a little bit, and I landed at this very tender, delicious apple cake with like brown butter and soaked in bourbon. It's kind of embellished or bedazzled with these like toasty, crunchy almonds on top and turbinado sugar, which give it a little bit of sparkle. And so she still is like very much approachable, yet extremely hot centerpiece dessert. Enter Glitz, Glam, Booze. So this cake is made in a springform pan. I know that not everybody has a springform pan. I would use my 9-inch cake pan, and I would butter and line it basically the same way that I would do it in this springform pan. But what I would do is I would actually take a piece of foil and I would create kind of like an anchor hook on either side. I like to do a little bit of a thicker strip for a little bit more reinforcement. You can just fold it there, fold it there. You would lay this down before you put your parchment round in, and then the parchment round is over top of it. So basically, when you go to lift it out, and it's not only picking up the cake, but it's also picking up the parchment that's kind of reinforcing the cake under it. So it should come out all pretty easily. Anyway, we have a springform pan, so we're gonna use it. So in order to make this circle fit, you just fold it over like a paper airplane, and then I like to fold it once more. And then you can take your cake pan, this works for any cake pan, and you put it right to about the center. I cut it kind of a curve, but it doesn't really matter. When you open it up, ooh la la. So it fits in there perfectly. But before I put it in there, I'm actually gonna grease the bottom. So I'm just going to take a little bit of butter. I like to get into the corners and then up the sides. The reason why I like to kind of get into the crevices here is because when I put my parchment in there, I can press it into that corner and it will adhere very flush to the bottom of this pan. And then I'm gonna take just another small pat of butter and grease this part of the parchment too. It's gonna ensure that obviously nothing sticks, but also with a springform pan, you just like really wanna make sure that everything releases nicely. Obviously, this is an apple cake, so you gotta have some good apples. I like a mixture of, you know, your kind of classic Granny Smith, in addition to like a Pink Lady. Honey Crisp are also really good. It's nice to have a little bit of a sweeter, firmer apple in there in addition to the tart apple because I really think that they kind of like balance each other. I always see this and I think of like snake skin, you know, when they shed. It's like, nagini, dinner. There are a couple ways that you could go about coring them. Typically, actually, what I do is I just go as close to the actual core with the seeds, or you can cut down the middle and take a melon baller or corer and core out the middle. So I was kind of tinkering with different size slices. Anywhere between like a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch slices is probably good because they keep their structure, they don't get mushy, but they also bake all the way through, and that's kind of what we want here. If I'm doing 2.5 pounds of apples, that's about 6 apples. 3 Granny Smith, 3 Pink Lady, for example, or 3 Honeycrisp in this case. So I'll probably keep at least a cheek from each variety for the top. And the cheek is like this. I'm not even really tossing them in lemon juice to like preserve the color and keep them from oxidizing. I'm doing it more for imparting a little bit more of a tart flavor. And when I didn't do it, my apples kind of got a little mealier as they baked. The apples are done, and now I'm gonna get started on the cake. That was honestly the hardest part of this recipe. The rest of it is super, super easy. This isn't hard, but we're browning butter, so maybe this is the most technical part. So I've got a 1.5 sticks of butter here. And it is typically easier, quicker, more fail-safe to brown butter when your butter is at room temperature. Basically, when you're browning butter, you are evaporating the water, and then what you're left with is essentially a mixture of the fat and the milk solids, and you're toasting those milk solids, which is what browns, which is what gives it that like toasty, nutty kind of flavor. Most of the butter is melted. I'm going to swirl the pan. I like using a pan with like higher sides just so that I can keep swirling it and kind of equalizing that heat throughout. Oh yeah. Now we're bubbling. It's gonna come up to almost kind of like a rapid boil. I am gonna monitor my heat a little bit, but I like where I'm at now on kind of like a medium-ish heat. Once the bubbles start to slow down and you can't really hear them anymore, that means that there's not that much water left in it, so it's basically your fat and your milk solids. Those are the things that are heating up. That's when you really gotta pay attention. Okay, so the bubbles are pretty rapid now. I think once they start to really, really speed up, the water's like, no! It's fighting even more to stay in there. My bubbles are a little less erratic. They're a little bit more uniform, and they're quieting down. I think that the water has finally taken to fate. They've accepted it. They're gonna be gone, and it's okay. So when the water is mostly evaporated, it's gonna subside to foam. What's gonna stop the cooking is adding some bourbon in there. It's also gonna help me deglaze or get the fond, the milk solids that have gotten kind of stuck to the bottom off of the bottom, which is pretty important because the brown flecks are the flavor. The rest of it is just kind of the fat. Oh my God. Oh, it smells so good. Smell it. It smells like fall. In order to make this easier for me to drizzle into the cake, I like to put it in a heat-safe glass measuring vessel like this. This is going to set aside to cool slightly. All right, let's bounce. The rest of this is like super simple. It's basically just whisking together some dry ingredients. The cornstarch just really helps lighten everything up and keeps it very tender, especially with all of the moisture that's present in the cake with the apples, lemon juice, the bourbon, and then there's a good bit of salt in here. You want to make sure that there are no pockets of flour, no pockets of leavener, and that will ensure success. So anytime I'm working with lemon zest in a cake, I like to rub it into the sugar. It helps release the oils that are present in that rind of the lemon. So it's gonna be kind of like a wet sand consistency. And basically it's just gonna be super fragrant. And that's gonna help perfume the cake even more. So then I'm gonna add a little bit of maple syrup, and the maple is just fall, you know, reinforces that fall vibe. So the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add the eggs one at a time and beat well after each addition. And I've got my butter here. We haven't forgotten about that. This is a technique that I like to do when I'm making brownies, is I actually like to really whip the eggs and the sugar together, because it helps give kind of a natural lift, but it also really makes sure to emulsify all those fats that are in there. And when you add the butter, it kind of just helps it more evenly incorporate. So I'm gonna just give this a little pre-mix here. And then with the mixer running, I'm gonna slowly incorporate this. So then I'm just gonna add all of my dry ingredients at once. I'm gonna just mix on low until just about everything is incorporated. It's almost like a pancakey type batter. Wow. So I mixed just until most of those dry ingredients disappeared. Now I'm going to fold in the rest of it just to make sure that I don't overmix and to get any of those floury bits off the side. Gay man, iced coffee break. So now I'm ready to assemble. So I'm gonna do about 1/3 of the batter on the bottom. And really, I just kind of go in with the apples. Like, I just don't really care too much about making them look super ornate or anything, because I'm just gonna cover the rest of it with cake batter. You definitely will get some distinct layers of apples in each slice, but also some of them become like kind of jammy. Some of the thicker slices stay intact and remain crisp. And then I honestly like to just pour the rest in there. So then I go in with the rest of my batter, and I did 1/3 on the bottom, 2/3 on the top, so that I have kind of a thicker layer on top for my apple-y design. You want it to go all the way to the edges here. I'm going to take my reserved apple slices. I honestly just take them like this and then just press them in. I do fan them out a little bit, but really you don't have to be super precious about this part because it's gonna look really pretty no matter what. I kind of get one like pretty central, and then I work out from that one. And I do apply a good bit of pressure to make sure that like the bottom few millimeters of the slices are in there. So the last two things is the crunch. Well, we have one more thing after that, which is more booze, but you know, always start and end with booze. So I've got a little bit of turbinado sugar, and then I've got some slivered almonds here that are just coarsely chopped, just to kind of distribute that crunch all throughout. I like to kind of get my almonds first in there where I have any cake batter showing. Some of the almonds kind of get in between there. Then I like to go with turbinado sugar on top, which is like basically delicious, sparkly, edible glitter. The turbinado sugar is gonna help the almonds kind of get a little bit of caramelization, but then they also help the apples get this really beautiful kind of brown color. So she's a hefty gal. This is gonna bake for about an hour at 350. And what you're really looking for is the top to be nice and burnished. You can see that the almonds are really toasty, lovely. It's not burned in any spots. Oh my God, she smells so good. I think she's ready. I'm gonna go check and insert a cake tester. If it comes out cleanly, I know it's done, but I've already taken a little peek because I just can't help myself, and it seems absolutely gorgeous. Oh, gorge. This is looking beautiful. I'm so excited. So I'm just gonna let everything kind of resettle for about 10 minutes. Then I'm gonna pour the last 1/4 cup of bourbon over the rest of it. I don't do it while it's piping hot because honestly, you're gonna taste it a little bit more after it's cooled for a bit, and it's gonna be boozier. Because if it's hot, you run the risk of the alcohol burning off. And I don't want that. Do you want that? No. Typically what I like to do is I like to just take like a little knife and just kind of run it along the edges. Because we grease the pan quite well, it should be fine. But you know, sometimes like That sugar gets a little caramelized and kind of sticks a little bit. Moment of truth. Ooh, ah. It smells great. I'm gonna take a picture. Oh my God, I'm gonna take a camera. I'm vlogging. Wow. Ooh, ah. Wowza. She looks fantastic. Very nice, tender crumb, I can tell. It looks very apple-y. I love seeing all the layers of the apples in there, especially kind of like that design on the top. It's very mesmerizing. Okay, I'm gonna try one bite without ice cream, but then I simply cannot help myself, so I'm gonna need ice cream. She's boozy. What's great about it is that you get all of the things, right? Like you get the crunch right off the bat because it's the top. You get that booze kind of on the back end. And the apple is just super consistent throughout because there's A, so much of it, and B, it's maintained such a good texture. It's not like mushy applesauce, but I gotta eat it with ice cream. That's all I can think about right now. Still warm with vanilla ice cream. This is like perfect. Getting me very excited to I don't know, apple pick. Never been. Invite me apple picking and I will make you this boozy apple crunch cake. But if you don't invite me apple picking, I guess it's okay because you're gonna get the recipe for free anyway in the newsletter. You get a boozy apple crunch cake recipe and you get a boozy apple crunch cake recipe. If you sign up to subscribe for Bake Time, the new newsletter, you can find this recipe for boozy apple crunch cake for free. I will also be linking to my collection of 20 or so fall baking recipes. I'm just really excited that we're along this journey together, and I couldn't think of a better place to start than this cake. Oh, and if you make it, please tag me. And if you do, then maybe you'll be featured in some capacity. Or maybe I'll shout you out in the newsletter. We'll see. So if you want to find this recipe, click the link below, subscribe to Bake Time, the newsletter, or if you are already a New York Times Cooking subscriber, which you should be, then you'll also be able to access this recipe whenever, wherever. Wow, Bake Time. We did it. Oh wait, I have to vlog. I love this thing. It's like my new thing is vlogging, huh? Yay, do you guys want to eat some apple cake? Yes. Bye.